Hey everybody, welcome to Cosmic Convergence yet again. My name is John, one of the co-hosts of Cosmic Convergence, and in the past I made videos about the UAP drones, orbs, and such that was going on over New York, New Jersey, and across the world, Seattle, China, Russia, England, places like that. Now this video has been a long time coming since the last one that I put out. We still hadn't had an answer from the government, and following this little conversation here, I'll go ahead and put some videos up, and I'll let you know what my opinion is afterwards as far as the explanation that we, the public, were given by our government, both the Biden administration and the Trump administration. And following this will be my interview that I had with Chase Williams, a good friend of the show. We recorded our impromptu session shortly before Trump came out with his explanation on the drones. So just bear with me, sit tight. We're just going to go over a little collage here as far as what both sides of the government have said up to this point, and then I'll give you my opinion. Thank you.
Why does it have to be a classified briefing if these are just hobbyist drones, they're not military drones? Why is it a classified briefing on the Capitol Hill?
I'd have to refer you to Congress on that. Again, sharing as much information as we can here. I don't have the briefing in front of me, so I can't tell you specifically, what aspects are classified or not. I can assure you, though, that again, we are sharing as much information as we can based on what we know. Let me go to the other side of the room here, Chris.
Thanks, Pat. Two questions on drones. One, there's particular interest, perhaps by us, but also from the U.S. government regarding the drones in New Jersey. Does the Pentagon have any indications that those drones in New Jersey are somehow different in size, activity, etc., than the drones that have been spotted at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Hill Air Force Base, and other locations in the past few days?
Chris, what I would tell you is we don't see a connection at this point between any of those activities. Again, just taking a step back here, 8,500 drone flights a day, but again, don't see a connection at this stage.
And then my second question, has the Pentagon determined who was responsible for the drone incursions over the bases in the UK over the past last?
Yeah, to my knowledge, still being looked at. I'd have to refer you to the UK MOD and US Air Forces in Europe.
Military operations.
Thanks, Trine. John, on the drones, does the U.S. government have any of its own imagery or video of these systems?
I'm not aware that we have U.S. government produced imagery ourselves, but as I said in my opening statement, we have certainly done thorough analysis of the existing imagery.
Like from people's cell phones that we're seeing? Basically, with what you're looking at, how can you credibly tell people that there is no public safety threat, there's no national security threat, that there's no reason to believe that a foreign government is involved?
Because the analysis thus far, in an investigation that is ongoing, has not revealed any national security or malicious intent or criminal activity. But, Jackie, I would remind you, we're at the beginning here, not the end. There's a lot more work to be done, and we're working closely with state and local authorities to gain more information. I would argue that we're moving pretty well here with a sense of energy to try to figure out what we can do to learn more about this. We're still in the middle of an ongoing investigation, and I'm up here explaining to you and letting you know what we know so far, what we believe so far. If information comes to light that changes that characterization, then my goodness, we'll be the first ones to let you know. But right now, there's just no indication that this is some sort of foreign malign activity or, in fact, even criminal.
Well, what I don't understand is, this has been happening since late November. I don't know that the law enforcement officials or residents in New York and New Jersey, or even the Democratic senators who wrote to Director Ray Mayorkas and the FAA administrator today would think that this has been handled with a sense of urgency. But that being said, has the President or the Secretary of Defense issued any guidance to NORTHCOM or military installations to act on these systems if they're deemed to be a threat in any way? And what's the benchmark for that determination?
So two thoughts. First of all, you're right, late November. It is now, what, the 12th of December. So I think it shows that we're moving on with this and we're going to stay on it. So I want to disabuse you of any notion that we're not taking this seriously, because we are. I can also tell you that if the president, as commander-in-chief, believed, based on the information that he'd been given, that there was a national security threat at play here, or even a public safety threat at play here, he would issue the appropriate directives to not only law enforcement, but perhaps even the military if that was needed. I want to go back to something I said at the top. There has been no evidence of any of this activity in or near restricted spaces.
That's not what the senators said in the letter. They said, in fact, that they've been observed maneuvering their critical infrastructure, sensitive locations, including reservoirs and military installations, and cited a concern from law enforcement about public safety threats because a medevac helicopter was prevented from transporting a seriously injured patient for care because of the presence of these drones.
I stand by my opening statement.
Can you make that make more sense? Because I think people in New York and New Jersey see drones the size of an SUV over their house every night and think that that doesn't make any sense.
Certainly I understand why people would be looking at this and being concerned about it. We're concerned about it too, which is why we have the Department of Homeland Security and the FBI, my goodness, looking at this. And we're taking it seriously. We understand that people are concerned. We understand that they got questions. We got questions too. And we're working hard to get the answers to that. What I can tell you as we sit here today, at 2:16 in the afternoon on the 12th, is we haven't seen any indication thus far that there's a public safety risk, and we haven't seen.
The government know what they are.
We are still investigating this. I can't tell you definitively. I cannot characterize for you definitively what these sightings are. I can just go back to what I said at the opening. We've looked at the imagery. We can't corroborate some of the reported sightings through our own expert analysis using sophisticated detection techniques, but that doesn't mean that, we're putting our pen down here this afternoon and calling it a day. We're going to keep at this.
What are you doing, though?
We are continuing to investigate it, as I said in my opening statement, 2 federal agencies, as well as the United States Coast Guard and state and local law enforcement officials, which we are staying in close touch with.
Picking up on drones, has it reached a level, or is there a level determined by which the president or the administration, more directly, would prohibit any use of the airspace, since it is regulated, for drones for a period of time to try to figure out who they are and to remove this anxiety that people in the Northeast are feeling?
I don't know that we're at a stage right now where we're considering that sort of a policy option. But I can tell you that we're going to keep an open mind here. And I think whatever policy options we determine are appropriate will be informed by the investigation. And thus far, in this early stage of the investigation, there's just no national security threat that we see and no public safety risk. So again, you want to be careful that you don't you don't jump to conclusions and you don't jump to policy options that may not be appropriate at this particular stage. But we'll obviously see where it goes, and we'll be informed by investigators.
President Trump, at some point will you use your powers of the presidency to tell Americans who are concerned about drones? A few weeks
good.
ago,
Yeah.
what exactly
I will.
happened? Can you tell us now?
In fact, I'd like to know, because I just got here.
What do you think?
I just came here. I've been here for 15 minutes now.
Do people listening, because this is going out loud.
And I got to read this letter too. Because of you, I found this letter.
I can read it for you.
It's interesting. Yeah, I know you would. Your father would too.
But is it anything, these drones, is it anything that people need to be worried about?
No, I think it's terrible. I would like to find out what it is and tell the people.
And can you commit to some kind of...
In fact, I'd like to do that. Could we find out what that was, Susie? Okay? Yeah, why don't we find out immediately? I mean, I can't imagine it's an enemy, or there would have been, people would have gotten blown up all over. Maybe they were testing things. I don't know why they wouldn't have said what it was. They had a lot of them flying over Bedminster, which is interesting, right?
And
I do have news directly from the President of the United States that was just shared with me in the Oval Office from President Trump directly, an update on the New Jersey drones. After research and study, The drones that were flying over New Jersey in large numbers were authorized to be flown by the FAA for research and various other reasons. Many of these drones were also hobbyists, recreational, and private individuals that enjoy flying drones. In time, it got worse due to curiosity. This was not the enemy. A statement from the President of the United States.
Bullshit. Bullshit. It's bullshit. Both sides. Bullshit. Honestly, if anybody that's watching, really, look deep down, if you believe in the phenomenon, and think that either administration, show a sign of hands, either administration would give you the truth about the drones. The mystery drones. Oh, wait. No, they're not going to. We can't look at the government to give us our answers. Our answers are going to come from the scientific community, and they're going to come from the experiencers. We have to merge those two. We cannot depend on the government. Honestly, if anybody has governmental ties, I'm at the point right now to where I definitely don't trust anything that they have to say. I mean, let's look at it. We have 2 UAP caucus members, at least. We've got Nancy Mace, and we've got Anna Paulina Luna, who, after Trump made this announcement through his press secretary that the drones were FAA approved, they just both went, "Oh, thank you so very much, President Trump. Thank you. It was just some diversion made by the radical left." Give me a break. Give me a break. Come on. Don't be buying that crap. And it's still going on. It's still going on. We really need to start checking ourselves when it comes to this stuff. We really do. It's necessary. And what are we going to do as a community when it comes to this stuff? Do we have a community? Because honestly, if we had a community and this explanation was given, regardless on what side of the aisle you are, you should be up in arms. You should be in outrage. Heck, skeptics should be up in outrage too, because his press secretary stated that they are running experiments. What kind of experiments? What, just to see how people would react? To see how the military bases would react? But the FAA, remember, they said they didn't know anything about this. DOD, they didn't know anything about this. And then suddenly, oh yeah, we know everything about it. Again, I call bullshit. It's total bullshit. If you're buying it, I don't know what else to tell you. I really don't. I don't know what else to tell you if you're falling for this. Again, regardless of how you feel about the last administration or the current one, it's bullcrap. That being said, thank you for being here. I hope that you enjoy my conversation with Chase Williams. Great man. Great man. I have a lot of respect for him, and I have a lot of respect for all of you. Thank you for tuning in. Enjoy the show. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Hey everybody, thank you for tuning in to another episode of Cosmic Convergence, where we're going to talk about the drones, UAP, orbs, fog, lights in the sky, rumbling in the sky, ground rumblings, all kinds of phenomena that are going on right now. It's not just the drones, which are, yet again, still happening. I know the news is really bad about covering that stuff, but it is still occurring. I'm still seeing footage daily on everything that's been going on. But today we are joined with my friend and colleague, Chase Williams. Chase Williams has some background working for NASA. He's an engineer. He's got a site that he's working on right now called Paradocs. You can find it at discoverparadox.com, in which we are going to compile a whole bunch of information about the phenomenon worldwide, the entire web, about the phenomenon in general, from reports to sightings to you name it, and it's going to be on that. And it's still a monumental task that I'm so thankful that Chase is putting all of his time and effort and endeavor into. And so, Chase, we've interviewed you a couple times on Cosmic Convergence, and it's always a deep conversation. If you'd be so kind, for anybody that hasn't seen those episodes, and shame on you all, but you can always go into our backlog and look at it. I'll put the episode numbers in our description. But Chase, if you could you give us a little bit about your background for the viewers that may be seeing you for the first time, as far as what you've done professionally?
Yeah, no, absolutely, John, and thanks for having me on the show again. I really enjoy coming on and talking to you and Chris and Daniel and Melissa and everyone else. I think what we're doing, what you guys are doing, is really important to get the message out that there's more to reality than a lot of people still, are just completely unaware of or think is nonsense. So my background is in electrical engineering and mechanical engineering. For the past 8 or so years, I've worked in emergent, bleeding edge kind of tech. I've worked for a lot of big organizations like Google and Amazon, and I've kind of consulted for about the past 7 years. A lot of my focus has been on operational and functional safety in air-based, sea-based, and land-based transportation technology. And at my core, I'm an instrumentation and control systems expert. So, having said all of that, why am I here? I've had experiences since about the age of 10 that I can recall, few and far in between growing up, and then about 7 or 8 years ago, I began to come in contact with individuals that everybody's familiar with now: Luis Elizondo, or Lou, Long. I almost worked for this Academy of Arts and Sciences with Tom. At one point, I was building a really advanced expeditionary vehicle that was outfitted with hyperspectral imaging systems and AI tracking targets in the air, 15 miles out, 8 pixels across target, stuff that can look in a 747 at 30,000 feet, a camera that can see what somebody's reading in the passenger seat of a 747 at 30,000 feet. So really advanced tech. We were going to go on HBO with this. We were going to tour with Angels and Airwaves. We were going to do all kinds of stuff. And I got to this point because I had experiences that shook my worldview. Experiences that absolutely in the moment disproved materialism as a thing, disproved the concept of consciousness being bounded by the brain or the body. Telepathic communication, things popping up in the sky, a lot of the stuff that we're seeing more and more regularly now in popular media. So that's me in a nutshell, why I'm here and what I've done.
Yeah, and I thought it would be good to get, for the viewers, to get a separate input than just myself or my co-host Daniel and Christian, but to actually kind of get your perspective on the whole thing. And so you're pretty fair, even-minded. You take a lot of things on a scientific approach. I mean, you have to. You're working with all these technical systems, engineering, stuff like that. And so it's not that you're just somebody that read some books about UFOs or alien visitation, and you grew up on X-Files, and that's it. No, you've actually you're learning to apply some of your knowledge into the field of ufology and disclosure and searching for the answers, which whether we get that or not, but at least you're on the search for it. I mean, you have some valid background. Again, you worked for NASA, right? I mean, you have worked for NASA in some capacity. And then also, for people that didn't know, I'm sorry I failed to mention this, Chase. You also helped Grant Cameron release the Wilson Davis documents on, what was it, 4chan?
No, it was Imager actually is what I utilized. Yeah, the Wilson Davis documents and or the Wilson memo and the alien autopsy email chain with Nolan and Putoff and all those guys copied discussing it as well. We leaked both of those. Yeah, Grant's a good friend that I connected to after I had my first really reality is not what you think it is experience, which was essentially a CE5 for those that are familiar. That's Close Encounter of the Fifth Kind. You have a desire to connect with something, you ask for it to show up, and there's telepathic communication and a light appears in the sky, which could be called a UFO or UAP or plasmoid, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same thing.
Which was touched upon in the Jake Barber interview that Ross Coulthard had on News Nation, was that, and Gary Nolan was present. And I didn't really want to touch too much about that, but, Gary Nolan was present when one of Jake Barber's colleagues, in arms, literally, sat down with the blindfold on and was able to contact or make UAP appear, and actually two appeared. And I won't show the footage here, but I will show, and we'll talk a little bit about the egg here later. So what's really interesting, though, is that, we're having a lot of people, and some of them might be viewers right now. Again, it's first time seeing the channel, and first time seeing some of the footage that I'm going to be playing here, to where they never thought one speck, one even passing thought. Maybe they saw it on the tabloid, like the National Enquirer about, aliens, aliens helped me have my baby or something like that, right next to a picture of Bat Boy. And they decided, well, this is just all crazy talk, aliens. Ha ha ha. And then, and again, not just in New Jersey, but around the world, they're going, what's that? And I know that the skeptics want to say, well, it's a plane, and some of them may be, or it's a satellite or whatever have you, but people generally know what they're looking up at in the sky and what they see on a daily basis and what they could be. You've experienced stuff, right? I've experienced stuff where we're like, that's not really normal behavior. Is it skydivers with flares? You look it up and you're like, no. Is it all the prosaic explanations that might be out there? And you're going, no. I know, and you've had your own personal experiences. And so now we're having people around the world that never gave this a second thought are having these experiences. And to go with what Jake Barber said before during that interview too, is all of a sudden he felt this connection with it. And I know that's really hard for a lot of people, even a lot of people that believe in NHI and they believe in UAP, to talk about the psychic, or they said psionic, but the connection between these objects that are in the sky and like their own consciousness, right? And so I think that, I don't want to go all about me, but what do you think that the connection is there? Do you think that there's more people that are opening up to it? If you could refer back to some of your experiences, maybe like your very first one, so it can possibly resonate with the viewership that we have here right now, if you would be so kind.
Absolutely. So you mentioned early on in your response, John, that I had done much more than just read a few books. I've had my own experiences that really ultimately were the real fuel to get me to challenge my own position on the nature of reality and existence and consciousness and the afterlife and aliens and ghosts and all this stuff. Because when you start to look at all of these things, pretty quickly you realize that they all are connected. They're all one and the same thing. So part of that research and extensive research, which is what Discover Paradocs is about, is an aspect of that research. It's taking the best tools that we have and going through as much data as we can. A human being can only refer to so much, right? And putting together something like a formal academic report on information that's consumed begins to become a massive endeavor because there's so much information out there across all disciplines of study. But not to take us out on a tangent with respect to the research process here, you can look to popular media and see people and what these investigative journalists like Ross Coulthart, like Leslie Kane, like so many other really quality journalists, and you can see where their research takes them. And that general path is the same path that every ufologist that's serious about their trade and their research takes as well, because it all leads to the same thing. It all leads to the nature of consciousness. It all leads to the nature of self. All of these experiences, even the big experiencers like Bledsoe, right? Everybody here, especially in America, points to Bledsoe, but his the same path. It's this spiritual path to self. So if you look at the work of Thomas Campbell and My Big Toe and what he did with Robert Monroe and the Monroe Institute, and what individuals like Donald Hoffman are doing in their research with his case against reality, it's all pointing to this is a type of simulation. And so, turning this back around to what you said about Coulthart's interview with the latest whistleblower, Barber, right? Which I watched that. But Barber's reference to psionic abilities bringing these craft in it's cyclical. We've seen this in ufology. It's the CE5 process. It's a human initiated contact event. And the irony in having that terminology, HICE, human initiated contact event, is every contact event is a human initiated contact event. Ghost, alien, lizard person, whatever it is, right? Like there are people that meet Jack the happy Dalmatian that talks to you in space. Like that's a real thing, believe it or not. So anyway, I think what's happening is we're seeing that this idea of psionics, telepathy, any kind of extrasensory perception is now becoming less obscure or considered less. We're reconsidering. People that thought this was nonsense are reconsidering their positions, especially knowing that the government, not only the U.S. government, but every government around the planet has been studying this and continually funding it for the last at least 60 or 70 years. And, I've been involved in research projects before, and they get dropped after 2 or 3 years if they're not successful. People don't just throw money at stuff. They can throw it at other things. And you have people like McGonigal, who's incredibly efficient. And Coulthart talks about that. He's however many awards for, adding to the intelligence of active projects in U.S. military operations, whatever they refer to that as. We can look to law enforcement all across the world that have brought in remote viewers and so-called mediums to help solve cases, and have done it. So you
got Lonnie Zamora, who years upon years, decades ago, he was a police officer, and his account was of an egg-shaped craft. What do you know? I mean, we have supposed footage of a egg-shaped craft getting lowered down to the ground. Now, for me personally, the jury's still out on that. Okay, I would like to see more of a chain of custody as far as where the video came from, because that was not Barber's video. So there's still a lot of boxes that have not been checked yet. So I'm still in deliberation. personally, internally about it. There are, I know that some people have gone over that said footage, as far as the light source, the length of the line that the egg object was in, and as far as it's rolling and its shadow and approximately how tall it is, and the helicopter rotors, are they going to leave a path of dust on the ground or not? And there's a lot of research on that, and that just kind of, it's not really my field, but I still find it fascinating. So there are people that are really digging down deep to find out whether or not this that footage is real. But the phenomenon is real. And people are coming across this more and more every day. Again, not just in New Jersey or the United States. I know that that's one of the poo-poo. Oh, how come this always happens just in the United States? Well, that's baloney, and even the people that say that know that.
I can see the increase on the back end of Paradox. I'm sorry that it's taking this long to bring it out to the public, but I can see the increase in frequency, and it's not just localized. Obviously, New Jersey was a hotspot, and because a lot of more people are talking about New Jersey than there are people talking about Buffalo or whatever, like it's gonna show up more as well. But no, it's global. Yeah, it's everywhere. Yeah, and it's increasing still.
What is happening? What are these?
Hey, listen, yo, check this out, yo. I see something in the sky, yo. I'm telling you. Hold on. Yo, check this out. No BS, man. This is right here in the middle of the road. Like, I'm driving down the road here. Look, this is my car right here. No BS, yo. No BS. This thing is in the road, in the sky right there in front of me. I'm on the road going to Somerville, this thing turning. What the fuck is going on? Yo, it's a pyramid. No bullshit. A car coming down the road. Hold on. A car looking too. Hold on. The car probably see it too. No BS, yo. That thing is in the sky. Look, y'all. I want to know if the car see it. Put on my blinker lights. Is this thing turning? Listen, I'm telling y'all. I'm in my car now. I got on my blinking lights. I want to know if that car see it. Or that car probably don't know what's going on. This thing is right there. Am I tripping and I'm the only one seeing this thing? Hold on. I got my blinkers on. Hold on. Listen, am I the only one seeing this thing? Hold on. Look. This thing is in the sky just sitting there turning. That's a pyramid. Listen, y'all can't see it like I can see it. It look like a pyramid. For real. Let me zoom in. Oh, shit. I gotta zoom. This thing, do it look like it turning, y'all? Hold on. I'm tripping. Yo. That thing is, hold on, how could I zoom in? Let's see what it is. Yo, that's an object. That's something, yo. No BS. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. That shit red. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. Yo, what the fuck? That shit, oh, that shit.
Some truly extraordinary footage tonight, captured and sent exclusively to us by a local resident in New Jersey. a hotspot for recent unexplained drone activity. This astonishing video shows what appears to be a massive green mothership drone hovering silently before releasing 9 smaller, glowing red drones or orbs into the night sky. These unidentified aerial vehicles then move in perfect formation, their purpose unknown. With reports of similar sightings coming in from around the globe, particularly near military sites, many are left asking, what are we dealing with here? A breakthrough in technology? Or something?
I would really feel that it would be a disservice from myself personally if I didn't ask you, for the people that are going to have an experience after they watch this with lights in the sky, orbs, drones, whatever have you, craft, and what maybe they have already, and they're looking for more people that have had the same experience. If you don't mind talking about your experience when you went outside and you saw the light, and this is what your first experience. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
If you can go into that, in detail, and then we'll talk about stuff that's going on right now that is just mind blowing.
Yeah. So feel free to dig into any of these. I'll give you the 10,000 foot view of the experiences up to the one that I think you want. So, when I was 10, my mom and I were chased down a dark Texas desolate highway at about midnight, coming from my oldest half brother's house by this massive white light that would blink, and it moved from one side of the highway to another. And when it illuminated, it looked like day. Like it's that bright. It looked just like the sun was out. So that happened when I was 10. When I was 15, I saw a triangle inverted to grade flying backward, as big as a shopping mall, moving at about a mile an hour rather. No sound. And then I've had like ghost experiences and stuff, but the experience that I think you're referring to, John, happened about 7 or 8 years ago. And I had begun, for whatever reason, I'd become really interested in UFOs and stuff. So I had a buddy that was working at DOD, which is how I connected with Luis Elizondo. So at this point in time, the night of this experience, I've had 40 or 50 conversations with experiencers similar to my own experiences, talking about what they've experienced. I've talked to Kevin Day of the USS Nimitz, who was one of the operators there. Same thing with Sean Cahill, good friend at the time. Luis Elizondo, I'd flown to Encinitas. I was going to work to the stars. We're talking about AI and UAP identification and interfacing with government systems and interfacing with the public. And so that was where I was at. And I had just gotten off the phone with this guy that had a similar experience to mine. And I was thinking about the nature of these experiences in relation to some individuals' abilities to, quote unquote, manifest more easily. Not manifest like, I want a new truck, so a new truck's outside, but more like passing thoughts. Like, for whatever reason, like you just think of a Wendy's cheeseburger, right? And so after we get off the call, you go into the room and you realize that Melissa's gone to Wendy's and got the fucking cheeseburger, and it's right there, and you're like, holy shit. That kind of manifestation. So Kevin Day and all these other people that I talked to were having these things happen really, really, really frequently, to the point of it concerning them, as funny as that might sound. And I was also researching at the time a paper that was co-authored by Nolan, if I'm not mistaken. No, Kirk and maybe Putoff. But anyway, this paper has to do with physiological effects to experiencers of close encounters, and to what degree. Some physiological effects are positive, some are negative. This paper was commissioned by DOD, probably through ALSAP, which turned into ATIP under the, right? 5, I don't remember what the name of the paper is, doesn't matter. So I'm thinking about this and how they're connected to microtubulin and how that's connected to this theory of orchestrated objective reductionism, which is kind of a bleeding edge theory on the nature of consciousness at the time. And I have this weird sensation sweep over me in the kitchen. And I feel better than I've ever felt in my entire life, physically and mentally. And I'm compelled to, and I have a thought, the simple thought, we create reality. Like, that's it. Like, if you want something, you just embody it internally and it comes to fruition, more or less. Okay, it's a little more complex than that, but that was essentially the thought. And I was compelled to go outside. And I don't think that they, whatever they are, compelled me to go outside. I think I just knew that I was in a state of being that because I tried CU5 prior, but because I felt differently, I think I just knew inherently that if I went outside in this state of being, that I could just bring them in, right? So I go outside, and I do this, make up this on-the-fly CE5 process where I close my eyes for about 20 seconds. I imagine myself above my body about 50 feet, then 100 feet. I can see the entire neighborhood. I fly out to the main road that connects to the larger road that goes up to these two really large bridges that are really right off the Gulf of Mexico. And I fly out of the Gulf of Mexico and out up into space and back down. And I do that in 20 or 30 seconds, just real quick, right? It's a visualization process. Bam, lights in the sky, bright, close, flies across the sky. And then I go, the engineer goes, do it again. So you got to repeat this. Otherwise, it could be anything. I've worked for NASA. I've consulted for other aerospace companies and aircraft companies. I know what a plane looks like. I know what birds illuminated by ground radiation look like. I know what a balloon looks like, right? But people can make mistakes. Long story short, I do it again. Another one shows up. Different direction, different trajectory, same kind of craft, luminous ball of light. Do it again. I do it again. On the third or the fourth time, my wife at the time comes out the back door because I was in the kitchen making dinner and I served everybody and walked outside. So she comes into the kitchen, or out of the kitchen, back door, and she says, "What the hell are you doing?" Because I'm just standing in there. Yeah. And I say, I think I'm manifesting UFOs. And she says, "You're effing crazy. Prove it." Okay. So I start to do it, and then my son comes out the back door, and she says, get back inside, right? I do it. Two of them show up, and they swirl around each other and shoot off in different directions, and she loses her fucking mind, and she's calling her friend at the time. "You're not going to believe what she..." And I've got to sit her down, or she sits me down on the patio and says, "Look, okay, that's fine. All this stuff is real. I don't care about it. I don't want to hear about it. Don't do it in front of me, blah." Okay. So I do it she goes inside. I do it another 2 or 3 times. And the last time I do it, all the times except for the last time after she goes inside, are the same luminous orbs of light. But the last time, it's a lime neon green triangle, equilateral triangle. Now, I don't know if it was really small and close or it was really big and far. I tend to think probably the latter, or maybe medium size. Maybe it was about 30,000 feet. I don't know. It's hard to tell. But it flew over me on a trajectory to the east. And she asked me to run to the store. We were out of something. I had to go to the store. And I go to the store and I come back. And there's a jet trail in the same path. So I can't prove this. This is pure speculation. But I think whatever that green thing was had shifted into the dimension or something to the point where we, America maybe, or the UN, whoever responds to alien craft showing up in our dimension, they picked it up and they were on their way after it. They're trying to. Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And that has a lot of people will say, well, there are a lot of loose ends on that. No, there really isn't. I mean, let's look again at some of the footage.
Check this shit out. Have a grip of them. Smaller ones are moving a little. Big one's chilling. Yeah, this is getting good. Straight up alien hunters out here. There's a city for reference. Airplane. That. As well. Another spot. It's weird. When we were just here like 5 minutes ago, you couldn't see anything. And then they just lit up again. Fucking nuts.
It's coming this way. What the hell is
So what we've got there is it's obvious that we've got these lights, what a lot of people have been seeing now more than just drones. We tend to call orbs, whether they're plasmoid or not. I'm not going to get into that debate, but these light orbs, and then you're starting to notice like jet craft, helicopters, and what have been termed drones that are either like in pursuit or nearby, or I mean, let's not even talk about regular airliner pilot reports of seeing things in the sky. So I mean, there's precedence for this. This is happening, and more people are having experiences like yourself, Chase. And it's important to realize that while everything may not be UAP or UFO, while some things have a prosaic explanation, I think that a lot of the argument about all of these things having prosaic information is that, or prosaic reason, is that it's kind of like they're wanting to take these separate instances, okay, and say, well, that separate instance there is this. And somehow that just puts a blanket debunk on everything. What they don't want the average citizen to believe in or know, like I do, and I believe you do too, Chase, that this is a real phenomenon. It is actually consciousness based. I know that's crazy for some people, as well as it is maybe not nuts and bolts, but actual like physical craft. And they're just kind of hoping that people take their individual stories, and that discounts the whole thing, instead of looking at it as a whole perspective, the whole thing, like Paradox is doing, okay, where it's not just separate narratives, it's one complete puzzle. It's just we have these pieces that we have in our hands, but there's no picture on the box to show us what it looks like. And so we have to take all of these stories, and some of them may not be truthful, but it still doesn't mean that we should disregard the whole thing, because all it takes is one for us to be right, and it takes 100% for the debunkers and skeptics to be correct. And tell you what, I like the odds that I have compared to that. And so, my point is this, and I want to get your feeling about this real quick. So, things from the phenomena in the past, like just say like the past 10 years, trumpets, booms heard in the sky, people in local cities or neighborhoods or communities will be calling the police. They don't know. We'll be calling the fire department. They don't know. We'll be calling mining companies. No mines in the area. They don't know. We'll be calling the Air Force, the military, NORAD. They don't know, and those would happen kind of separately, but there'd be a little small chain of it, and then you wouldn't hear about it anymore. Or let's say the lights in the sky that are just strobing in the clouds, where some people would say, well, that's a spotlight, but the light source is actually from within or above the clouds. And you would see that go on for a little while, and then it would kind of fade off. And then, let's see, a lot of movement of lights going through the clouds. Some might be spotlights, but what I've been seeing is worldwide, people are starting to record these things these lights going through clouds really fast, or doing these strange configurations. And somehow everybody is just like, every city and every town, maybe that's an exaggeration with but all of these cities and all these towns are just throwing spotlights up just for, some movie premiere. And we're talking like, maybe a community of less than 1,000 people, or just out in the middle of farmland, and there's just spotlights being shown on the clouds. And I even have a piece of footage. If I've showed it again in one of my other videos, I'll show it in this one as well, where these spotlights are seen in the clouds from an airplane,
and off of the coast, right off of the coast, off of the beach.
Whoa.
going off. Where's he gone? They've gone.
So I guess the explanation would be, well, there's a party boat out there, and they're having their strobe show, or I know another one is, and yes, spotlights now aren't just like something you see throwing the bat signal. I mean, yeah, you can have LED, you can program them to do things. I'm not discounting that, but some of these patterns that people are seeing, and then you got new stuff like the fog, which I haven't heard a lot about lately, but I'll include some footage in here about the fog, very, very dense fog where you would think it would be like, snow or soap that they used to sprinkle down in old movies to make it look like it was snow, but it's not accumulating. And if it is, it's acting strange. Right. And people are not feeling well about, they're not feeling well after breathing it in and being out there with it. And I don't have a lot of scientific research about that. I know that some people are actually trying to analyze that substance. And, again, ground rumblings, orbs, cigars now, Tic Tacs. And this is all at once. These aren't like separate incidences and 6 months goes by or a year goes by. It's all together now.
Jam-packed party time. Yeah.
Jam-packed party time, not spotlights. And, I told her like a couple weeks ago, I said, because the fog was going on and stuff, I said, what's going to be next? I said, sounds, horns, booms, explosions, all kinds of things that people, where did that come from? And there's nothing within the entire state hears it and nobody knows where it's coming from. And it's not just one, but it's several locations. So it's like following this pattern, I guess. So now that we've, I think, gone through everything, it makes me wonder what's next. Or what do you think about all of that stuff in conjunction with each other or separately?
Yeah, well, I mean, look, all those phenomena have been recorded historically. The stuff, the mist, the stuff that's fallen from the sky, this weird film, white film stuff. There's a really excellent desk reference, and I'm actually using it to keep our toilet closed while our cat is occupying the bathroom at night for now. But it's a big bibliography of all strange anomalous events that was put together by a team of librarians. And the book's massive, it's a big book. But it includes a lot of those reports of the stuff coming out of the sky and the sounds, the trumpets, the horns. This is what I think. I think that the reason, well, I actually don't know what the reason is. I can speculate as to what the reason is, but I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'll just say, I think that the frequency of these events waxes and wanes in time. In some points in time, there's a really awakened global society, and in other points in time, much, much less. And I think we're making a shift, and this is one of those times we're making a shift into being more aware awake. I know that term is overused, but more aware of the broader reality. And science this time around is more informed, and we have a little more to go on now. Given the majority of these experiences that people have are highly anecdotal, and they're hard to prove. And it's like you were talking about my experience. Like, yeah, it's real easy for some guy to go prove it, and he's go, you can't prove it, and the blah blah. That's the end of the story. Okay, well, it might be the end of the story for him, and that's fine if it is, but it's not for me. And the reason I think it's important, although there are the highly analytical people that aren't engineers, the reason that I mention that I'm an engineer so much is because I want to point out that I try to operate that way, to really look at the evidence. And so that experience that I had that I shared with you, that experience proved me in the moment that thought was non-local. And if thought is non-local, what does that mean, right? Because I have craft or whatever these things are that are just appearing in the sky in front of me because of a thought that I had. So that process, whatever the hell's going on, changes my entire definition of reality. And and then you realize, like, there are people that have dedicated their lives to near-death experience research, to out-of-body experience research. There are methodologies to get you out of body. There are substances that you can consume that prove to you that there's an afterlife, that will let you connect with somebody on the other side of the world or have telepathic communication. We see the telepathy tapes now that has become this massive, success. And they're showing how real telepathy is and how people can connect with your dead grandmother, or you can connect to these alternate lives or past lives or future lives or whatever. So anyway, I think these experiences that people are having, the sounds, the lights, the UFOs, even close contact events where there are entities standing in their bedrooms or whatever, like all these experiences, I think they're us getting more connected to that broader reality. And I really do think that people create these events. I don't think that these events happen on their own, regardless of whether or not someone's watching or not. If you see something, you're intended to see it. You're a part of it. You're maybe even part of the architectural process of it. And a friend of mine, that same guy that worked for the DOD, messaged me earlier tonight before you and I connected here. And he hardly ever talks about this stuff anymore. He's highly skeptical. He knows that I've gone in a completely different direction. He worked for the program. He went into a skiff with the guys that were working for ATIP. They told him they had biological specimens. They videotaped him without his permission on Unidentified with Lou on the History Channel. There was a whole investigation that ensued because the back of his head was on video for the whole world to see without his permission. A serious investigation. When you're a high-level intelligence officer, that shit shouldn't happen.
Yeah,
So,
you can't even show an earlobe. You can't show a freckle because that could give you away.
Well, that too, yeah. So he's really skeptical because he feels like Lou lied to me. These guys lied about a biological specimen. They told me something completely different when I got into the skiff. Then they told him information about an event that should have been classified in Italy in the skiff. And I don't think it was classified at the time, which is how I was able to hear about it. But there was a lot of red flags for him. And I'm not saying anything to discredit anything that Lou or his colleagues or peers have done. My position on Lou is that he's like most of us. He's got information. He's astounded that this stuff is real. He does want to bring it forward. There's probably some level of intervention, government management as far as what he's saying. He obviously is making money, and he probably has an opportunity to make more money now. And he's gonna do that because who wouldn't in that same position? I think, but I could be wrong. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the fuck he's doing because reality is far fucking crazier than what the fuck Lou's got to do or what I'm doing, right? Like, it doesn't matter. This is much bigger than any of that.
I just really think, I feel this, that people just have to go out and instead of looking for external answers, they need to look for internal answers. And how they feel internally. And this goes a little bit back to Jake Barber. Okay, what he feels what they feel internally about what they're witnessing. And don't let Chase Williams or Jonathan Leeser tell you, or Mick West, or the neighbor next door, or your own loved one. If they don't feel it, then that experience was not their time to feel it. If you have support, find your support, but feel inside what that experience was. If it throws you into that was eerie, or like Jake Barber, oh man, I felt this feminine love, and it still guides me to this day, then that's your truth. I think that you said the biggest thing that you said that I don't want to overlook is this, that if no one was there to see it, it wouldn't show itself. I mean, it's. I'm not talking about it. If a tree falls in the forest and no one's around, doesn't make a sound. I mean, I've never been quite a fan of that anecdote because I go, well, yeah, sound is vibration, and I mean, whatever have you.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, this stuff is showing up because someone can witness it. Grant Cameron calls it the wow factor. Other people have discussed this, and it's just they're not wasting their time. And so one has to think, not a superiority thing either. It's not a superiority thing. But okay, let's say that I exist, right? You exist, right? One day, someone comes up to you, Chase Williams, and says, you don't exist. And you're like, no, I'm right here, man. And you're like, you don't exist. You don't exist. Right? And what are you going to do? You're going to be like, well, this person doesn't think I exist, so I'm not going to waste my time trying to tell them that I do. I'm just going to go over to this other person over here, and they'll be like, wow, you exist. And it's the same thing with the phenomenon. The phenomenon is not going to really show itself to people that are like, oh, I need proof. I need definitive proof. I need a body right in front of me. I need to land on the White House lawn, and everything else that I see is bogus. It's fake. It's a sham. Power, money, and fame. That's why these people want to be on the news for 5 minutes. They want their 5 minutes of fame. And you know what? There are going to be people like that, sure. But overall, no. And so the phenomenon I'm sorry, you really don't believe in any of this. You don't believe in this aspect at all. So I'm not going to waste my time with you. But if you go out there with an open heart, open mind, like you said, you felt like, hey, I'm not going outside.
I think you're absolutely right. I think just expanding on that, because I too have thought a lot about this, and the individuals' differing experiences and perspectives. And I said early on to my buddy that's retired DOD, the guy that I messaged earlier, that you're going out on these expeditions to hunt for anomalous stuff. If you don't believe in it, there's a lower probability that we're going to see something. And he's not like that. He didn't like that at all. But moving away from this idea that this philosophy that this is a materialist construct, I think Bernardo Kastrup has this theory. He calls it analytic idealism, and I think that's what this is. And it's aligned with Thomas Campbell's My Big Toe, which is his theory of everything, which ties in all the work that Robert Monroe did at the Monroe Institute, and mapping these different dimensions and going out of body, and what it means to go out of body or experience these other states of consciousness or whatever. And I think it seems like when someone has these differing, it's a bit like everybody's holding a movie camera, right? And so if our story is part of our story right now is we want to talk about this stuff, right? We want everybody to recognize that this is very real. But I think I think at the same time, you have these people that have their video cameras that their story is it's not real, and I'm interested in Lego, and that's what I'm going to do, and then I'm going to die, and that's it. And then when they get to the end of that story, and they're not dead, not in the way that they thought they would be, then maybe it's maybe it's they're our cat or something. I don't know, or they're the president, unfortunately, or whoever they might be, right? Um, but I honestly, John, like my few experiences that I've talked about before, aside from the one that I shared tonight, um, they lead me to believe that it's more like that than anything else, and that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be passionate about whatever it is we want to be passionate about in this experience, um, but I do think it's going to be more often than not. The majority of people are going to be awakened to this broader idea, and it's going to allow for all the things that were discussed in myth about this stuff, and in all the prose and the copy and the videos and everything. It's more manifestation, more leading lives that we're really fulfilled and joyful in. I think that's what it's about. But some of these experiences, I mean, I don't know how to make heads or tails of them. I mean, I know that Jeff from Strange Recon, he and I used to do a show together, a podcast, and I remember he was on his boat. He had like a 30-foot sailboat that he lived on. He was on his boat, and one evening, and he saw a UFO, multicolored. It had the red and the green lights, like a lot of the drones that people are seeing. And it flew down. It was flying around the harbor and other boats. And then it flew over to his boat. And he looked at it, and then it flew off, right? Later on, he has an out-of-body experience, and he is the craft. Flying in around the thing, looks at and it wasn't a dream, but then again, I think people misunderstand what dreams are. I've been tracking my dreams religiously, almost religiously, for the past 3 or 4 years, and I know that there are precognitive events. I've gone back. I know we moved to this house. That's in the dreams. Everything, construction aspects, the internet being installed, it's all in the dreams. My oldest stepbrother is getting a divorce. It's in the dreams. It's really cryptic, but it's in there. Like there's other things that aren't coming to mind, but the drones, the lights, the patterns in the sky, it's in the dreams. Like
and I talked about that.
Yeah, we did.
Talked about that we had. I mean, I had these dreams years ago. Where it was like, oh, I'm with a crowd of people, or I'm just driving down the freeway or something, or the highway, and I stop the car and I get out and I see in these lights, a few lights off in the distance, and they get closer and they're swirling around, and then some are. My mind tries to rationalize while I'm sleeping, and then it's showing, that they're advertisements. And then I'm talking to you, Chase, the other day, and you're like, I've had the same kind of dreams, roundabout way. I've had the same kind of dreams. And then I'm looking online, and you can't again, you have to take it at face value, what resonates with you. But a lot of people are saying, hey, people having dreams about these things in the sky, and you're like, well, it's part of just because they've been paying attention to this stuff. It seeps into the mind. I don't think so.
No.
I think that the precognition stuff and things that are going on while we're in that dream and that sleep state of meditation, right, where our body is relaxed, I don't think our mind is tapped into that universal, non-localized consciousness, man.
If your viewers are tapped into telepathy tapes and you've done your research there's a couple of other books that are published by the mothers and the caretaker of some of the nonverbal autistic kids that are featured in that podcast. And they talk about the same stuff. They talk about getting from alpha to gamma to beta to theta, all the different brainwaves. That's not the right order, but they talk about what the brainwaves are and what it means to be disconnected from the body and connected to the other. They say the same thing. They talk about connecting to deceased loved ones. They talk about all that stuff. Yeah, and it's it's all there. It's it's all there. ESP telepathy is all very real, and it's all connected to this stuff. But it's
People, I think my observation is so far is that this is going to continue to happen. Be not surprised if something new or something that's been reported in the past shows up as a next step or a next hello or a wave or some kind of acknowledgement. And people say, well, we don't have contact with them. Look, obviously they realize that we're paying attention, whoever they are. Okay, I'm not going to get into that. I believe that we're all one, we're all connected. Okay, but just for the lack of just for the sake of conversation, I should say, they're aware that we're aware, and I've tried that myself. Once I've shown awareness, this goes back to what I was saying before about denying their existence. Once I've shown awareness, they've been like, "Oh, hey, that little breadcrumb I dropped over there."
Yeah, and there's a sweet spot. You can try and connect and fail quite a bit.
Oh,
and
sure.
I have, but there are these really subtle sweet spots in quieting yourself, meditating, whatever process it is, taking a substance. I think there's nothing wrong with that if you're well informed and you understand what's going on. And there's tons of studies on that too, that can show you that people can have shared dreams, shared telepathy, shared death experiences. All of these things are real and happen all the time. You question anything about the nature of mortality, talk to a hospice nurse that's worked in hospice for more than a year, and they all know. They all know. It's astounding that the medical community isn't openly talking about life after death or out of body experiences or ESP, because they all know. It's such taboo in academia that you bring it up as a medical doctor, you risk losing your license. And you see that's what happened with Dr. Powell and her support initially coming out with ESP and the stuff that Ty Dickens features in the telepathy case. That's what happened to her. She just published a book called ESP, and they revoked her license. And then she said, "What are you doing? Here's the book." And they said, "Oh, you actually studied this stuff. We're sorry. Here's your license back."
Yeah, they can't even do the research on whether somebody did the research and wrote a book about it. I mean, that's how bad it is. And I just want to refer back real fast. I mean, we have some hospital nurses and caretakers in hospitals where children are unfortunately, they're in critical condition or they're getting ready to pass on or move on, and those children are reporting beings being on the side of their bed. So, I mean, sorry, guys that don't believe this stuff. It's not so cut and dry, and it's not mass hysteria. Mass hysteria, gotta love mass hysteria. The whole world is in mass hysteria for seeing this stuff. Biggest, most unprecedented mass hysteria ever.
Right. Since the dawn of time, all of recorded history, everyone is mass and hysterical and delusional.
Except for them.
Everyone.
Except for them. They're
no, I mean it's on almost every page ever written.
Right.
All this stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
For dare I say, thousands of years. This is, again, nothing new. So to those people out there that are watching this, I want to thank you all for your viewership and for your interest. And I hope that you enjoy all the footage. I just got to say this, except for keeping your eyes in the sky, pay attention to things that are around you. Okay. Come up to your own discernment, whatever that is. John Leeser's full of shit. Okay, fine. All right. At least, hey, thanks for hearing me out. I appreciate that. John Leeser and Chase Williams, they know where it's at. Well, I appreciate that. But I don't want you to go ahead and take everything I say as gold. I want you to be able to go out there and experience it yourself. All I ask, and I believe that all that Chase would ask, is that you keep an open mind. And, if I look at it this way real quick, is if I try to call my mother, I know my mother exists, right? I mean, obviously I've had contact with my mother. She gave birth to me, blah, blah, blah. And I call her up, okay? And she doesn't answer the phone. Hang up the phone, right? And I leave a message. She doesn't get back to me. So I call her a little while later. Same thing. A couple days later, I call her. She says, "Oh, hey, yeah, I got your message. I was just, whatever. I was busy, but I got your message. I'm calling you back." And that's the same way that the phenomenon really is. I mean, you touched on this before. You've had a lot of times where nothing happened. Whitley Strieber is another one of those who said that he'd go out in the woods and be like, all right, let's talk, guys. Let's talk. Nothing. You know, I mean, it's not saying that you have to set the certain standard of, you know, an outline of what you must do steps. No, I mean, it varies. It's all internal. But I mean, just because my mom doesn't pick up the phone a couple times that I call her doesn't mean that suddenly my mother no longer exists. It just means that she was unavailable to talk at that time for whatever reason, you know. And so eventually, if you call, right, and you have good intent, this is what I believe. If you have good intent and you want to have contact, you will have it.
Yeah.
You will have it. It is a two-way street. Like you said before, Chase, you know, it depends on, you know, you as the individual have to be, it's a reciprocal thing, you know. I mean, it's not just going to dance its lights out in the sky and zoom around if no one's watching. So it's definitely reactionary, and it has a dialogue. There's a dialogue that's going on when no words are spoken. There doesn't need to be language.
No.
So, but I want to thank you, Chase. Do you have any other parting words for the audience before we go ahead and cut this out?
I would just say, you know, my bottom line, I try to have the same bottom line, and that's reality is far stranger than any of us, I believe, any of us have been educated to believe it to be. You know, even some of the closest religions, and from my perspective, what I think are the closest, still, you know, do very little to really help us understand what reality is. We really do live in the twilight zone. I believe there are. It's amazing. So if you have any doubts, you know, or if even, you know, if you're highly skeptical, but there's just the slightest possibility in your mind that what two guys are saying on the internet might be true, you know, just know, like, these experiences that I've had have completely shifted my entire outlook because they were so real. I have nothing to gain from telling anyone that I experienced one thing or another. I'm not selling a book or a course or anything.
Are you thinking about doing that, Chase Williams? I mean, this could be a way for you to make a whole bunch of money. Now you could be a grifter.
I don't. There's no reason for anyone to listen to me in the first place. You know, I'm not in the limelight. There's no reason for it. It's astounding. It's astounding what reality really is. And I know that I don't have it completely right because it's incredibly complex. Like John said, you know, I think you don't have to use words with these other entities or this other force. But the reason you don't is because everything is just conveyed naturally. Telepathy is, sure, it could be language, but it's mostly feeling. You just know. Like, I immediately know how much John likes video games and how much enjoyment he had playing a video game the other night. Just bam. Like, that's telepathy. Down to the detail, down to the aha of walking in and the other avatars shooting at him or whatever it was that was fun for him, right? Like immediately. So that kind of stuff is happening. This is a pit stop. This is one experience of many. And I think it's infinite. And from what I've experienced of that, it's often overwhelming for me because it's like Johnny Mnemonic jumping into a different body or a different experience every 5 minutes or something. Like, now I'm Chase, and the next time I'm a little girl in Chicago, and then the next time I'm Crump-2 on planet Quamfar in the whatever nebula, right? Like, it could be anything.
Yeah, it's great there because they don't have taxes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the milkshakes are great from the swamp gas or whatever. Yeah,
right. So
no taxes is the big one though, and they don't have any presidents either. To hell with that.
Right. Thank goodness. You know, I hope I reincarnate there next. I hope I reincarnate there next.
Yeah, we'll be there. Yeah.
Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We'll create our own reality there.
It gets
But
boring though. They don't really have any board games or anything. Just kind of sit around in a swamp. But it's
yeah, and
You're right.
one of them's like, you know
Yeah.
what? There's this species out there in the universe,
Yeah.
and this is one of my main things. And then we can go ahead and
Okay.
end this segment because it is running late. But
Yeah.
you know, look, people, I'm just going to put it out to you this way. We even have the biggest debunkers going, well, you know, sure, there's life out there in the universe. I mean, yeah, they might be a little microscopic or they might be something better, but they're so far away. They're so far away. And we could talk about distance and all that mathematical equation stuff and wormholes and all that. Look, if I'm here on this planet going, you know what, whether it's here at Earth, visits Earth, whatever have you, in our oceans, whatever. But let's say that's a no. Okay. Let's say that other intelligent life form is 1 billion light years away. I guarantee you one of them at this very moment is saying, I know that there's something else out there. And it's thinking of me at the same time I'm thinking of it.
Absolutely.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
That's really all you need. And then they're right there with you. I know that's really esoteric for people to get their heads around. Really, what? No, they are through the non-localized field of consciousness. And if you can acknowledge each other over those distances through thought, through empathic feelings and stuff like that, through telepathy, whatever have you, okay, whatever name you want to throw on it, then you're already in contact at that point in time.
Yeah.
I mean,
And we know, with 2022, we know that local realism is false, which means that if something's not being observed, it's not defined the same way. Its features change at the very least, which changes materialism by itself. Right? We know that. It's astounding. All of this is just astounding.
It is. And you know what? You don't, again, last parting thing, you don't need to have somebody else validate your experience as long as it's valid within yourself. Right?
Yeah.
And, you know, if you feel you need psychological help, go find it. If you don't, you're fine. You experienced this thing. It was real to you. So thus it is real. I'm not going to tell you whether it was, well, real or not. That was your experience. And we can all share the experience together in being able to be a second or third observer in our perceptions of reality and stuff like that. But, you know, you experienced it. And don't let anybody tell you that you didn't. They don't have
That's
the right.
it.
They don't have the right to tell you that.
That's your proof. That's your proof. That's how you have to get it, you know, and it's there. It's there for people to find it that really want to find it, you know, and it's in that way. It's just like the X-Files, you know. If you grew up watching the X-Files, I watched it here and there, but in that way, it really is, because there are these secrets that are out there. The reality is not a concrete block. You do not exist just in the mind. These things in the sky are not just in the sky, you know, and it's all wacky and true. And mainstream academia and the scientific community are coming around. They're recognizing that non-local realism is false. They're recognizing that non-local consciousness is part of reality. They're recognizing that, you know, maybe there is something to this idea that atoms just know they're a table or a wall or Chase or John. Right? Of course there is. Of course there is. There's so much more, and all these things I think we're seeing, you know, are intended to get us to pay more attention to those aspects of reality. Now, as far as the government retrieving craft, you know, I think it's just an extension of this dimensional reality. Right? We are entities. There are others out there. Sagan in 1967 was commissioned by NASA, and the conclusion to that paper, in using the Drake equation and being very conservative in 1967, was that at any given point, there were thousands of interstellar vehicles in this galaxy alone. Thousands. And that the Earth in 1967 had likely been visited by intelligent extraterrestrial interstellar vehicles at least 40 or 50 times. Okay, so that was 1967. the bottom line of that estimation today is going to be more favorable than it was in 1967 because we know more about space. We've seen more. We've observed more crudely, but we know that there are there are planets around every star, right? 20 years ago, they were like, oh, there could be a couple of planets here or there. Now it's, oh, yeah, planets are everywhere, right?
Right.
Like, and it just continues on and on and on. So of course, there's going to be entities that are swinging by this planet and other planets and looking, and they're going to be familiar with this stuff. And I think that there are entities that construct planets, that construct biological specimens on planets for the sake of consciousness to flow into. I think that's what we are. I think that's probably what most biological life is.
Including themselves.
Including themselves. And I think there's all kinds of crazy stuff that people that haven't had the experiences that we've had, they just laugh at. They think, dude, there's a couple of crazy guys on the internet.
Okay, so
and that's but again, that's for them. And whenever they have their experience, if and when, they'll go, you know what, I was wrong. I've been there. So.
Well, thank you, Chase. Thanks for your words of wisdom. It's always a pleasure to have you on. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. And I know that we just kind of threw this together real quick, but man, I want to really say thank you for your availability on this.
Oh, yeah.
It's been too long since we've had you on cam, brother.
Yeah.
Now that TikTok is back for at least 90 days,
right.
People can find you on TikTok at Morpheus, right?
Morpheus, yeah.
Right? Just like the Matrix, Morpheus.
That's it.
And that's it. Cool character, by the way. Great movies. And we are kind of all in a Matrix, but I'll save that to something else. Conscious Matrix. Anyway, thank you. Is there anywhere else people can find you? That's primary right now, right?
Yeah, Morpheus, and then discover Paradocs. Yeah, there is a YouTube channel in the works. I think, I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Well, thanks, Chase, and thanks everybody for watching. Like, share, subscribe, follow Chase, follow us. Hey, thank you all. Over 1,100 viewers now, or subscribers.
All right.
That's fantastic, man. And yesterday was our Cosmic Convergence 1 year anniversary. So I want to thank you, everybody. We couldn't have done this without you. You're all an integral part of Cosmic Convergence, and we love you all. And thanks. See you again. Thank you, Chase.
We're pioneering the world's most expansive, phenomenon-based database and research platform. Imagine a single gateway that harnesses the collective intelligence of our world. A portal that compiles every encounter, every academic study, and the full spectrum of data concerning remarkable phenomena. Meticulously curated and interconnected through advanced artificial intelligence, our platform transforms scattered information across the web and in physical print into a cohesive matrix of knowledge. Paradocs aims to bring all this content into one searchable, dynamic database. We're not only hosting the world's largest collection of phenomenon-related content, but also helping empower our users to find critical connections between diverse topics, from UFOs and alien abductions to near-death experiences and reincarnation reports.
Bad monkey.